Hello AP World. If you're watching this video, that means that I did not make it to school today. Sorry, but my little leggy is not working, which particularly bums me out because this is my favorite day of the year to be a teacher. Uh, I miss out on all your costumes. That I do apologize. I will try and be very festive and Halloweeny through the use of hats during our lecture today. So, let's start out with hat number one. We'll be working with the lecture, which you should have already loaded up to this point. The lecture is entitled China and the North. We should be working right through there. The first image we have is a map including China in our post-classical era. This is our era from 600 to 1450. Up in the northern region in pink, we might be a little confused. The spelling looks a little different than it did in our textbook. The Jin here is also the Jurchen people. So if we were a little confused on what in the devil that was, that's who they are. In the south, we're looking at the Southern Song. I'm going to go right into the third slide here on the emergence of a unified China. Um, After the fall of the Han Dynasty, we're going to have a repeating cycle like we did early in the year when we looked at the era of warring states that were later reunified by Qin. In the Han's a little different. Han fell, and then we had 300 years of a time period in which there were no leaders or any political form whatsoever. Now, this is going to lead to a real tough point for Chinese people. Obviously, no leader. It's going to make them feel uncomfortable and also give them the sense that Confucianism failed. Now, with Confucianism failed, they're going to tend to lead more towards Taoism and Buddhism. During this time, without a strong political government, they're also going to find that they had less protection. Though the Great Wall of China did keep out some of the nomads, during this time period you are going to have nomadic incursion coming in from the north. Now, once the Chinese were reunified, we went through what was called the Golden Age of China. Hat change. Going Oceans 12. The Golden Age of China was brought in by the Sui dynasty in 589 to 516. They reunified China, and they did one important thing. They built a very strong and large, well, I guess they couldn't be strong. They built a very large, amazing canal system, which was supposed to be the biggest achievement of our time period anywhere in the world. A large canal system obviously is going to increase trade throughout China and allow for much more people to be involved in a world market and further influencing the silk trade. Now, where the Sui dynasty went wrong was that they tried to conquer Korea, and they alienated a lot of people there, and they exhausted their national resources, and as a result, they were overthrown, and it brought in our Tang dynasty. Now, the Tang and Song, they're going to build on the traditions of the Sui, but during their time period, that's where we get the idea of the golden age of China. They are going to really build up arts and literature. As far as politics were concerned, you have to imagine during this time period, you had a variety of different people trying to take power during an era in which there was no government structure. With no government structure in place, all of a sudden you don't have, I guess it gives a freedom for other people to take over. Now, if those of us that have been watching Revolution, thank you for the suggestion, by the way, we know it could be militia that would take over in the absence of a federal government, or in the case of China, we have wealthy landlords. Now, these wealthy landlords are going to become very, very powerful, and again, we're going to try, as a new government comes into power, to reassert themselves and be strong over the local wealthy landlords. Now, how do we do this? We're going to have to reinstitute the examination system. And how will they do that? They're going to make it stricter. They're going to block iMessaging, and they're going to prevent cheating. They will also build up larger schools, and they will try and reduce the power of landlords by promoting peasants once again through redistribution of land. And as far as economic growth, Economic growth really sees its largest um, growth during the Song dynasty. During this great dynasty, we had great prosperity, a large population growth from about 50 million to 60 million people. A lot of this was done through a new form of agriculture. The agriculture that came about during this time would be drought resistant and fast ripening rice from Vietnam. I know that sounds tough to remember. Fast ripening drought resistant rice. Let's go with instant rice. Instant rice from Vietnam. Everyone loves rice. The population will double because there's more food. More food equals more people. More people equals more trade. Trade is facilitated by the canals. Canals of the Silk Road. Oh my gosh, we're all having fun, and my hat is so spirited. Um, where else can we go with economic growth? That's about good. One note on growth, people did participate more in a market economy than for local consumption. Therefore, once again, they're going to be more in tune with international markets, but that means that they're susceptible to losses. If there's a disaster, they're not self-sufficient. Oh, they use paper money. Jumping now to the women in the Song dynasty. Well, I'm going to keep the lady hat on. No, I think we're changing. Women in the Song dynasty. Now, women in the Song dynasty, it was, as you guys have probably already gathered from the foot binding video, the women during the Song dynasty, they are not going to have the most golden era. The Tang dynasty, on the other hand, that's going to be a little more open to women because the Tang had their origins in the steppe nomads. They were people from, I like that I'm looking up as if I'm looking to northern China. Hello, northern China. They were from the north. Now, in the north, they were pastoralists, and pastoralist people are always going to have better rights for women than we would find in a regular regular Confucian type society. Now, during the Song, that's when we had the tightening of the patriarchal roles. This came about because of the Neo-Confucianism. Now, as government came back, they have to reinforce Confucianism. So let's put aside Taoism, let's put aside Buddhism, and let's go with back to Confucianism. Now, that's going to put women on a lower role again, and foot binding was something that did show up. I hope that video didn't freak you guys out too much, but I thought it would be something that you would like to see, and I hope our discussion went well. Let's go with China and the nomads. Make sure I'm still centered on here. Yep, we are. China and the nomads. So, China and the nomads, who were these nomadic people? The nomadic people were people that lived in the northern steppes. Now, we saw that in our Wild China video. This is the area north of the Great Wall. This is an area which people lived in kinship-based groups. They were pastoralists, so mostly what they grew were animals, horses, goats. So you plant horse and goat seeds in the ground, that would grow into a goat tree, and then you would grow a goat. But the one thing they did lack was grain and luxury goods. That stuff they wanted from China. What did China want from them? China wanted horses, cute little ponies that we saw in the video that were locked up together. So they had this uneasy relationship. They both knew that they needed something from one another, but they didn't necessarily want to work together very well. Now, the tribute system is what China is going to put in place for dealing with these nomadic people of the north. Now, the Chinese viewed themselves as the Middle Kingdom, the place where everyone comes to you, you don't go to them because you're the best, you're the center of the world, and why should I leave my awesome house to go down to your crummy neck of the woods and get something? So if you were a Chinese man, you're going to welcome in the barbarians. A barbarian is anyone who's foreign, especially the guys in the north, and the barbarians would come in, and they had to participate in the tribute system. That did not mean they got a bow and arrow, and they were not Katniss. They got to do a lot of bowing. Hello, sir. You are amazing. You are amazing. You are amazing. Here's some candy. Here, you're amazing. You're amazing. Do you like my gift? I like your gift. You're amazing. You're amazing. More bowing. Feeling good about ourselves, the Chinese can say, now you may trade in my country. They would also give them a gift back. Now, interestingly, the gift that they would give the barbarians would usually be better than the gift that they received. This is a way of showing how amazing they were. It's kind of like when you give someone a gift for Christmas, you're assuming you're going to get them something of equal value. And if they give you something way better than the gift you gave, bleh. If you got a gift from them that's way better than the gift you gave to them, all of a sudden you feel like, meh, they're so much better than me, they're so much more caring and how thoughtful and nice, and you feel guilty, or you feel in awe of their presence. So that is what needed to be done in order to participate in the system. But in practice, it was not always the same because there was a lot of contradictions going on. One of the contradictions, look at that one. That's a funny duck hat. One of the contradictions being that the nomads became very, very strong and powerful. The Xiongnu Confederacy, for one, and the Turkic people of Mongolia at one point became so strong that the Chinese couldn't just run the show. So, in essence, it kind of came down to this idea where the Chinese bribed them with gifts, and the barbarians demanded gifts. So the Chinese were like, here, have these gifts so you don't invade me. And then the barbarians like, give me gifts so I don't invade you. And they still called it the tribute system, so that way the Chinese felt good about that we're still the center of the universe, and the barbarians still felt amazing because they felt like they were claiming stuff. And the last thing I want to talk about today before my battery runs out too. Poof! The last thing I want to talk about today is the cultural influence across the ecological border. The nomads that did come over to China did adopt Chinese ways, but for the most part, they did not really want to take over. For the most part, the steppes people, they preferred to just extort the Chinese to get what they wanted from them. But often when they did move in and cross the border, they would have to settle into Chinese ways. Now, what did that mean? That means that they spoke Chinese, they participated in agriculture, and they basically followed Confucian ideology, became Chinese. But on the other hand, there was no taking of culture to the barbarians. One, they could not farm because they did not have farmland. They did not want to embrace the Chinese culture in the north. So those that came into China, they converted, while those that experienced Chinese culture, they did not take it back with them. So you could become Chinese, but China did not leave China to go to the Mongols. So the only interaction that they had that went back with them would have been trade, military conflict, negotiations, and extortion. That being said, I am out of hats. I guess I can go back to helmet face. I do apologize again, you guys, for not being here on Halloween. I am really bummed. I know that some of you must have the most amazing costumes ever. If you feel the need to take a class picture and email it to me, I would really appreciate it because I'm very sorry that I'm not there on Halloween. My little foot is not doing so hot, and so I am sitting here on the couch. There it is. See, that's the couch. That's a collection of hats. See, there's the hats. So, I hope you guys have a great day. Be safe. Don't eat candy from strangers. Well, I guess this is the one day you can eat candy from strangers. Don't harm any small animals. Bye.